All right, I want to provide a little tutorial on how to change your font size, the tolerance, and then the part lines and the thickness of that. All right, so this drawing is obviously pretty much completed, but I wanted to show you how to change some things. So there's a couple different ways to change it. You can obviously change things on the properties here. So for example, if you don't have the properties showing up on the command line, just type in properties and should populate for you, push enter. And then, so for example, this is done. Now, if you don't see it and you've changed it, typically what happens is you're on the ribbon below, on the very bottom, there's 3 horizontal bars. You want to make sure your line weight has been turned on. And then when you do that, you'll see that on the left of it is 3 horizontal bars with some thicknesses on it, right? So if it's off, it's not going to show anything. However, having said that, let's say you've done this. If you print it, Control P, you'll notice though that it is there. So if you print it out as a PDF, I'm going to do a window and I'm going to just center this as best I can. Oh, and if I do this preview, you'll notice it's there, even though it doesn't show up on the screen. That's because it's there. It's just not showing on your screen. So we'll go ahead and select that. And so the reason why you may not have it is it can be a little tricky as you're snapping and moving around and grabbing things when you have a very thick line. To change these lines, what you'll do is I'll kind of go backwards. So the part line generally wants to be thicker, actually it does, than the dimension line. And you always want to have that little spacing also, if you notice in the center mark. But the part line itself, what you would do is in the properties, you would go to line weight. And there are different ways to do this by layer or such. Right now, we're not into layers yet. And so right now it's essentially at 0. So it doesn't matter what you would do. There's actually no line thickness, if you can believe that. So that's how you would do it. And so it also depends on the media that you're outputting to. Our students find that at the 0.5 millimeter seems to be the best when you're printing, or plotting. It just really depends on the media and the output device. But for us, that seems to work. Okay, next thing is the size of the font or the tolerances here. This is actually not the way our textbook has it. The integer for us is at hundreds. Now you'll notice this one's a little different, and that's because I did a manual override, and you never want to do a manual override for a lot of different reasons. But let's just say I double clicked it and I was really frustrated, and I said, okay, this is going to be 5 inches because that's what it is. The problem with doing that, and you can do it, is let's just say you change the part size. A client wants to make a revision, you're in a hurry, you go back and you change the drawing, you change the size, but if you notice the dimension line doesn't change. So that's never a good idea to do an override in that kind of a scenario, because it can really come back to bite you. So I'll just go ahead here and make a new dimension, and that's the default. Now I want this to be, let's just say I need this to be a tenths, and I need it to be smaller. What you do is, if you don't see this ribbon above, which is your menu bar, click on the arrow and make sure you say show menu bar, and you'll have a whole new row here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to format, and I'm going to go to dimension style, format dimension style. And then what I'm going to do is say modify. And so the thing that I would recommend you do is, rather than try to change every arrow and every text, what you do is you go to this fit, and this is where the overall can help you. So if it defaults to 1, I've already been playing around with this. So if I made it 0.8 or 1 or what have you, obviously it's going to go down. If I want it to be larger, I'd say 1.2, or you kind of have to trial and error. And so that's what I would do for that. So let's just say, okay, you always want to hit set current. Otherwise it would do it, but it would do it from this point forward. So I'm going to hit set current, and I'll say close, and everything gets smaller, right? Which is maybe what I wanted. At the same time, I need to change the tolerances. So I'll do the exact same thing. So I'll go to format. I will go to our dimension style, modify, and then let's just change this to 1, the fit overall. And then let's go to this primary units. So I want this to be at tenths. And so that's what I do. And the other thing is, sometimes you'll see the book will say 0.50, or 0.5 without the 0.5. This is how you would stop that. You would hit leading, even though you're not seeing it here, it would change it. Well, you'll see the radius here where it says radius 0.5. If you hit the leading, it would get rid of it, and then the trailing would do the same. We're not doing the trailing, just the leading. That's how you would do that. Quite often you'll see that in the textbook. So you'll notice the 0 goes away. It doesn't affect our current drawing, but let's go ahead and say, okay. And then again, I'll say set current, and I'll go ahead and close this, and you'll notice everything has been changed. All right. So that's just a quick tutorial on how to do tolerances, the line weights, and overall fit.